Right, so hello and welcome to another episode of the Bitstocks Podcast. And I have today here with me none other than Damien, our Chief Head of Design over at Bitstocks. We call him our painter. And if you followed our Gravity videos, I think most notably CoinGeek London, you would have seen Damien's lovely face. So without any further ado, Damien, how are you, mate?
I am good. It's been a good day so far. So yeah, I'm interested to see where this podcast goes.
You're shitting yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Long story short, yeah, I'm terrified.
All right, so it takes a lot of effort to get Damien in front of the camera. In fact, the Gravity video that we done, even that you went into that little dark corner yourself, and you went into super like preparation mode just to get your script through. Right? There ain't no script here now. Yeah. We're here, we're flowing, let's talk.
All right.
So, I guess really for me, I think the thing that's gonna be of most value to the audience is really, I guess, understanding from a non-tech standpoint how your journey in Bitcoin has evolved over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And the challenge it's taken to, I guess, climb up the tech mountain to understand what it is that you have to rearrange and allow people to communicate with and identify certain features.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like, it's a tough job because you have to understand the complexities, but then you have to strip them away, which is, I would always argue, it's the same approach I take to education, right? If I can't explain something to a 6-year-old and that 6-year-old understand what it is that I'm saying, that's a reflection of my own intellect. Right? So I've really got to climb up that steep intellectual mountain in order to understand how the lay of the land looks from that vantage point to then be like, oh, it actually wasn't that complicated.
Yeah.
Right? I understand it now. So run me through it. Just back to Genesis.
Okay.
Bitcoin. And then being a designer. How were those first few months?
I mean, it was kind of a weird one because I had some understanding of what Bitcoin was maybe 3 or 4 months before I actually started at Bitstocks. So a couple of friends of mine told me about Coinbase. They told me how they were making some money. It was like, okay, I've heard of Bitcoin, but probably like most people have heard of Bitcoin, but they've never had any reason to delve deeper into it. It was only through them that I was like, okay, let me see what Coinbase is about. It was just super quick and easy. So I was like, all right, fine. Put £5 in, see what actually happens, and then try and figure out my way around it through there.
You put money with a competitor?
Before they were a competitor. So then got the job here, and that was a completely different ballgame because it goes from being something that's monetary to something that is much bigger, much deeper. Obviously, you come in and you're talking about what you see Bitcoin as, where you see Bitcoin going, and it's like, okay, this is not what I thought Bitcoin was. I thought Bitcoin was like, hey, I want to trade, I want to make some money, and I wasn't really looking at it from like a long-term perspective of what this can really do for me in 5-10 years down the road. It was like, okay, well, this is a bit of a trend, so let me ride the trend until it's done and benefit from it.
Did that make it more exciting, or did that make it actually more daunting that, whoa, this is maybe a little bit more sophisticated than I thought?
I'd say it's more, it's a bit of both, but I'd say more exciting, mainly because obviously when I started, I was a contractor. I stopped like traditional full-time employment because when I was working agency, I felt like there was no real individual value from it. Like you were just kind of a person who had to do this thing. You weren't necessarily the authority on anything, and you weren't necessarily creating anything of great purpose. Like I was doing stuff for finance and insurance. So it's very much like this is already set in stone. You kind of just plow ahead and do what you need to do. Whereas this was kind of like, okay, well, this isn't what I thought it was.
Compare the market.
Yeah. Don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
we'll cut that out.
I didn't sign anything.
Check your old contract and we'll cut that out.
Yeah. So yeah, it was finance and insurance. So yeah, mainly price comparisons websites. But yeah, then you start hearing, you're like, okay, well, this is actually a real opportunity to do what I want to do in the first place, be of value, create something that has more of a lasting effect and something that typically hasn't already been done yet. So it was kind of like daunting to have all of that responsibility because I was the only designer here.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, if this works or not is kind of down to just me. But it's interesting because that's actually what I wanted. That's the value that I was looking for when leaving full-time employment to be a contractor. So more exciting than not, but it's also a learning curve because, like I said, it's like it goes from being monetary to actually there's a whole technology that you had no idea about. I knew about Bitcoin. I didn't know anything about blockchain. Like that was news to me. It's like, oh, okay, there's more.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the learning curve of, okay, this is actually technology. It's not just an alternative to
There's
pounds.
something that you touched on when you said about, obviously the approach is different, right? So with us being so mission orientated, that puts a very, very firm degree of pressure, I guess, on your shoulders because you're responsible for communicating that mission to our end users that enable our end users to actually be part of the mission and help fuel the mission as well. So, and as much as, so it's all well and good, say, as a designer from your own individual thought process to be navigating your way through these murky waters that is Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And you came in at a point where we were just, I think, on the cusp of the early stages of the most recent bull market, right? So this is before the whole 2017 craze went really, really, really crazy, right? And at that time, there was a lot of confusion because the voices weren't clear enough at that moment and that stage as to what is or what isn't gospel in the space, right? We obviously had our own voice, okay? But even at that standpoint, our voice, although holding strong, the gust of everyone else's opinions was still flowing things around. So there's even a degree of confusion here within the Bitstocks office. And there were times and moments where I'm sitting there thinking, I'm sure I've got this right. Like, I'm really sure I've got this right. And then start getting into all the nerdy aspects, start talking about the mathematics, start applying it to this, that. I'm like, no, 100%. Way that we're looking at this is accurate, is correct. But then you have things like, well, you know, it's not always the first technology that is going to be the one that's implemented. Then it would be like the second mover, maybe the third mover. So you think of these things, I'd be like, okay, I'm really confident I've got it correct. And from a company's owner's standpoint, I've got to back my capital behind my decision to think, have I actually got it right for the next few years, next 5 years, next 10 years, right? And as challenging that is for me and all the other guys here at the firm, the reason why I coined you and nicknamed you the painter, right? One, just because you're awesome at what it is that you do. But secondly, a little animation plays in my head every now and again when you're working on something and then the rules completely change. Right? It's like, imagine, say, who should I? Monet or what other painters, great painters, are out there. Van Gogh, right? Imagine middle of Van Gogh painting, working on his masterpiece, thinking, oh yeah, just about there. Then new instruction comes in, right?
It's like a painful conversation.
Rami, because I remember a very significant one, right? Because when you first came on board, it wasn't we knew what we wanted to do, but how we were going to go about doing it wasn't clear yet, right? So the way that Gravity, and this was before, I guess, Gravity even had the name Gravity. It was Bitstocks platform, right? It was modular. And it was to be built in a modular way. It was to be experienced in a modular fashion, right? So you had all of these different components as to what it is that I was building. And I remember glancing past your screen and the renderings that you'd done looked awesome. Genuinely way better than the things that we had and things that I've seen out there as well. They look genuinely awesome. But I was sitting there and I was like, man, I'm really, really, really could feel sorry for Damien when I lay this news on him, but I don't think this is the right path. Run me through that.
Well, I mean, so from when we started to Now, I think it's been redesigned. I think I want to say 6 times, but it's. I come from an agency background where either deadlines are ridiculously short / impossible, or you start something and they change anyway. So for me, there was never really a huge problem with things changing. I guess it's when you do like your first iteration, then your second iteration, and then maybe your third iteration, you're kind of like, okay, when are we gonna get to the point where this is what we're doing? So I think for me, that was kind of the process of, I don't necessarily mind changing, because that's, as a designer, that's the process, especially when it comes to UX. The whole point of UX is doing something based on the information you have and what you think is right, and then reevaluating that, seeing what's right, seeing what's wrong, seeing what needs to be done completely different, and then creating stage 2. So for me, those 6 steps to get to Gravity is part of daily process of being a UX designer anyway. But yeah, it's kind of just when do you get to the point where you can say, okay, this is the fixed thing, like we know what we're doing now. I think that was the bit that I struggled to get my head around. But each iteration did get better. It got cleaner, it got simpler. A lot of the noise and a lot of the mess, it was like, actually, this, when it just started, it was like, this is more like a better version of what we've already got, as opposed to a great version for the future.
Do you know the overwhelming wave that I got when took a glance at your screen? And it's actually where the term was coined and stuck, right? I was like, wow, like Damien's really designing everything. But I ain't gonna feel like it's nothing. It's like it's too full on, it's too modular. I'll be stuck in between my transitions, right? And it went against the philosophy to what it is that I want this to be. I want this to impact human beings in a way that you're actually even unaware that you're being impacted, right? It should, like the air that we breathe. And that's really where the concept of creating everything but making it feel like it's nothing genuinely was birthed from. It was actually the sympathy from seeing you have done so much work, and then be like, okay, investment aside as well, because this is the part where it falls back on me. Any wasted work is money paid from my standpoint, right? So I don't enjoy walking into the office and be like, oh, Damien, rip that up. We got to do it again, right? I definitely don't enjoy that, because it's a considerable amount of money. Let's leave it at that point. But the most important aspect is, if I put my mind into the user standpoint, the user perspective, I think, okay, genuinely, how would a user feel using this? Right? What kind of experience would they have? What kind of learning curve would they actually need? And when the answers are so overwhelmingly positive to the user standpoint, and myself being a user, right? Every single person here is going to be using Gravity. We're not designing this for somebody else, right? We're designing this with a view to be like, okay, well, this needs to hit, all of these technical points, but this needs to be an amazing experience for everybody to use, right? And we've always used the term like, my mum should use it, your grandma should use it, like everyone should be able to use this, right? So going back to Genesis, you come into the space, you viewing things, and then be like, okay, I now need to engineer a solution to make this palatable, right? To make it feel like it's nothing. What were your biggest hurdles? What are the biggest challenges that you thought from a crypto standpoint needs to be removed? Don't worry about the technical aspects.
Yeah.
Right. Just from a design standpoint, what things would you instantly thought needs to be removed, and things that are still lingering today that you would like removed?
I'd probably say the jargon and terminology. If you're in the space, everything makes sense. Or even if it doesn't make sense, you have some understanding of what that refers to and what that refers to. Like I said, when I first came in, I knew Bitcoin, I didn't know blockchain. So don't want to use Coinbase as an example, but that's why it was so easy for me to get involved, because it was like, you sign up like you would a regular bank, you deposit like you would a wire transfer, and you're done. Like it's that simple. Whereas you go on Poloniex, Binance, and it's very much trader-esque, which is not the majority of people. So for me, the hardest bit and things that still are hanging around that are kind of, there are other options now, but it was the jargon and the fact that you had to know so much in order to even be able to understand or use and do simple things like buy £5 worth of Bitcoin. That's genuinely difficult for the majority of people. And like you said, our mum should be able to use it, our friends, our family. My mum couldn't use that stuff. Like, no. I struggle to use that stuff even now. And it's like, well, now I actually have a fairly decent understanding.
Tell you a true story literally just happened. Okay, just happened. So when I got a fresh haircut for you, right? Because I knew I was coming on camera, right? I know you do all your stuff. I was like, let me go get a fresh haircut. So just Hackney Road, around the corner, Slider Cuts.
Yeah.
Right? Got a taxi from Slider Cuts to here. Really nice guy, not too far off from me where I live. So we're just chatting away. Country boys, just chatting away. And he asked me, what do I do? I told him I work in Bitcoin. He goes, I had a customer yesterday, right? She made me take her, this is like 9:30 in the evening, trying to find, she said, I need to withdraw my my money from Bitcoin, right? I need to go see She said, I need to go see Bitcoin, right? So this guy, being a London cabbie, you know what's open and what's not, right? So this guy's thinking, all right, it's money orientated. She needs access to like a bank. I'm looking for the bank of Bitcoin, right? And he's like, I'm pretty confident a bank of Bitcoin ain't gonna be open at 9:30. And she's like, no, it's open 24/7. Like 24/7. And the guy's still arguing with her. It's like, no, there's no way that this is gonna be open, right? So in my head already, I'm thinking, okay, like she's got part of the information correct, but the other aspect of the information completely incorrect, because ultimately what she was looking for, and she then showed him on his phone, on her phone, was a Bitcoin ATM. But the operator was a Californian company, right? So he's like, well, it's a Californian company. I was like, the only information that's useful here is a phone number, but I don't think that phone number is going to do any use because they're in California, right? And you've got me out at 9:30 in the evening.
Driving around London.
Driving around London to try and find you this Bitcoin ATM.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have it. She's like, just take me to the address. So he had to obviously take her to the address because there's no skin off his nose as well, right? And only when she saw the shop shutters are down, right? Even then she didn't concede. She was like, I think there's another one, like locally.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. She was like, it's 24/7 operated, and couldn't make a clear distinction between the banking aspect side, the fact that she wanted some GBP from an ATM machine. And the benefits of Bitcoin. And it's been about for 10 years, and that happened yesterday.
No, it's true. That's I think that's exactly what the problem is. We want to create something that is available to everyone, which technically it is. It is open 24/7. You can do transactions and trades 24/7, limitless, no borders. You can do all that stuff. But no one knows how, or the masses who we really want to appeal to, and the masses who are really going to benefit from this technology, they don't know how to use it because, you go to one place and they're telling you one thing, you go to another place they're telling you another thing. Similar to you called it the Genesis. Like we also had that thing. It's like, oh, okay, well, there's lots of noise here. There's noise here. There's noise here, and we got to keep changing in order to get to where we actually need to be and find like the sole source of truth and information and what it is that we really want to be putting out into the world.
QR codes. What's your feeling?
I think they're old.
I'm glad you said that.
I actually wasn't expecting this question.
I wasn't even expecting to answer this question, but I was like, if you answer this wrong, we've got a problem. And I'm going to pull it out there, all for sake of transparency, but I will pull it out there, but gladly. Go on, talk to me. QR codes.
I think they're old in the sense of, well, obviously in the sense of time, but also there have been so many like technological advancements since QR codes, but there hasn't been a better way to do it, or not a mainstream better way to do it anyway. I think the most innovative way that I've seen it done, which I'm assuming is just a better version of a QR code is Apple. When you buy a new phone and you've got your old phone and you're swapping all the information over, you scan their little moving
I love
hologram.
that.
In my eyes, that is a fancy QR code. And it works because it's new and it's different, but really and truly, it's the same thing. But if you're going to have the same old technology, you at least need to make it look better. But I just think that we're in need of something new. We need something that's easier, something that's, I wouldn't say more accessible, because QR codes are quite accessible, but that just doesn't feel so mundane and old. You got all these new user interfaces that look really clean and polished, and then you get, a load of black boxes on a square that you got to pull your phone out and you got to scan. It's like, there must be better ways. I mean, Monzo do the share your location using Bluetooth. Like, that is a much better way that I feel to either scan information, find people, then here, scan my QR code and we'll be paired. It's
always become like so synonymous with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and wallets, right? That it's an expected thing. I know there's a hilarious tweet by Alex Agut from Handcash, and they've just made a recent and met with some controversy decision, which I very much support, of abolishing their QR codes. And he put a little tweet up where you literally got a guy throwing the concept of QR codes off the end of the building. Right. Yeah. And it was hilarious. It was brilliant. But the fact that the statement even had to be made, that people are just so kind of integrated into like the QR code life, and not factor the downsides. Cars and Crypto logo is a perfect example, right?
Code,
we put a QR code on it, and guess what? I don't have access to that address anymore.
Yeah.
Right, and then you need a new logo.
It's true. It's true.
There's a lot of limitations around, just from a cosmetic standpoint, let alone a technical standpoint, around QR codes. What I think is going to be really interesting moving forward is where concepts like PayMal go moving forward. Essentially, internet IDs having a handle, and whatever you put in your black box attached to your handle could be as sophisticated as hell, right? But that is a way of someone identifying you on the internet, right? And that, to me, is definitely 100 billion% where things are going and how things need to be progressing in relation to Bitcoin and Bitcoin transactions. Now, moving on to interface, would have been really handy if we had your second in command here as well, Ariana, because I want to touch on where interface is going. So, how much of Ariana has rubbed off on you, Mr. Head of Design, around the evolution of interfaces? And some could touch on some of the conversations that we've been having in the office as to like what we're thinking about and where we're thinking of going. But where's your mind been? Where has your mind been going?
I would say she's definitely rubbed off in the sense that I have to look at things with, I guess, maybe a bit of a broader spectrum. Obviously, when you're just by yourself, you do what you know, you do your own research, and you find your own information, but you're limited to what you know and what you feel the best practice is. The best thing about design is that it's subjective. There is no best practice. There is no this is the right or best way to do it, because everyone's going to do it differently, and it's also going to be interpreted by the people viewing it differently. I guess my view of stuff was never really that tech heavy. It was always about minimalism, aesthetics, making something as simple and as clean as possible. I think Ariana's addition to the design team is definitely some of the innovative technology aspects. She's very much into the 3D stuff, the VR. So now that's stuff that I now need to think about, because that's now a part of our team, which means if it's a part of the team, it's a part of Bitstocks, it's a part of the directions that we can now go in. Whereas without her, I don't know if I would have got there as quick as we have. It wouldn't have been on my radar as much. But her addition to the team has definitely made me have to think about
because
lots more things.
And this is one of the great aspects around having a company and having a great team, right? Because, and maybe it's just part of my thought process and work process, but I have loads of ideas swimming around my head. Some I bank and hold on to for longer than clearly I should be holding on to, because the whole concept around VR virtual reality it's been swimming around in my head for a long time. But as I spit so many ideas out there, I don't want to overwhelm the team, and things need to be categorized, right? It needs to be timeline and order of priorities. However, to hear, say, come out of your department, most notably Ariana, talking about the concept of virtual reality, and then had ideas, more importantly, ideas of how to utilize
definitely
a technology in line with what we're doing as a business, I was like, that right there, little golden egg, little golden egg right there. Because an example, I'm really knee deep in VR at home right now. Okay, had a great time with my family. That's a great plus, right? But there's genuine R&D behind it as well, much to my missus's dismay. Because when I say to her I'm working, I really am working.
You're just playing.
But I was playing VR. But I was doing research, right? And what was funny is I've got a 3 and a 5-year-old, okay? To me, the test of innovation and a test of genuine, amazing design is you put an iPhone in front of a kid that's 2 years old, 3 years old, and that kid will be navigating through that screen, will be collecting your gems on Clash of Clans, right? Will be spending your Apple budget. The kid will be utilizing that technology, right? And I remember when this is about 2 years ago, sitting there watching my daughter play on the phone. She's playing a kitten game. I'm like, is this just amazing design, or is my kid a genius?
Yeah.
Right? I was sitting, I was like, my kid's smart.
Yeah.
But I had to put it down to amazing design, right? Because I see other kids like picking up and doing them as well. I was like, that is a great testament to how important the advancement in interface innovation is, because the next stage is becoming more immersive.
Yeah.
So again, 3-5-year-old now, and I've got Fruit Ninja on the PC on Steam, right? And I've put the VR headset firstly on my 3-year-old son, Eisen, okay? Put the headset on him, and kid you not, I didn't know whether to be worried or proud, right? This kid, he's picked up the controller, which you can see because it's right in front of him. So he's picked up the controller, and he's actually just looking at his sword.
Yeah.
He's like this, just looking at his sword. I was like, again, don't know if I should be worried or incredibly impressed. But straight away, loaded the game, and he's slashing away. He's playing a game. He actually done a 4-fruit swipe combo, right? I'm like, this is nuts. And then my daughter, again, picked it up, straight into the game, immersive, playing away. Ironically, potentially even quicker than some adults picked it up. Not to say that any adults have any issues with picking up VR, because I've now got my fiance. News.
Drop it in there.
I now got my fiance, who's never been a gamer. Right. I even tried to dumb down my gaming back to Mario days. Right. I bought a Switch just on the basis thinking that I can play Mario Kart with my then girlfriend, now fiance. And it just never took off. Like even basic Mario Kart, she couldn't really play it. Right. Jumps on the VR, and there's a game called Beat Saber. Right. It's kind of like Guitar Hero, but you've got lightsabers, and it's just Guitar Hero-esque. Right. Kid you not, first go out, she laid down an S rank. Right. She done the biggest combo I've seen anybody do. I'm like, again, interface. Right. And this is what I find really, really interesting, because I think the great new technological innovations that are going to happen are going to be due to interface innovations. Because technology, we are going towards a non-local based computation. So things becoming all about the cloud, all computation essentially becoming about the cloud. That means that the technology in your iPhone, for instance, doesn't need to be as intense, right? If the processing is happening non-locally, I don't need to have an intensive processor on my device. Therefore, I don't need to couple it with a freaking huge battery. Technology drastically changes. And then you look at things like, obviously, virtual reality we've spoken about, but augmented reality, okay, which really kicked off with, say, Pokemon Go, everyone running around like the parks looking for Pokemon. But you take that concept now and you look at what Microsoft has done with HoloLens 2, all right? Well, we've already seen how that's impacted us as a company because we are already building out our plan for how we're going to use that technology here at Bitstocks, right? And that is how we're going to make it easier to reduce and get rid of a lot of the friction from building a global corporation, right? And what is your take on technologies like this? And before, say, the conversation around augmented reality and virtual reality got really intense here at Bitstocks, how far did you think those concepts were, just from your standpoint?
Oh, I thought they were way off. If I'm completely honest, I think that could be a limitation on my part, in the sense of I typically don't want to jump into something when I haven't seen. If I don't know that much about it, I don't want to jump into something if I haven't seen practical ways in which it can be used. Like virtual reality is something that's been spoken about for ages.
Yeah.
But it's never been like this. Augmented reality, like you said, with Pokemon Go, that was probably the first one. But then you see companies like ASOS, and they're doing it where, you know, you've got you basically seeing someone try on the clothes. You're using AR to see someone wearing the clothes. You're seeing how it fits. You're seeing how it looks on you or on someone else, and you're just like, it's no longer just a theory or a game. This is actual practical application for companies, for products, for business. But for me, I was still kind of looking at that and being like, okay, you know, you're always going to have early adopters, and you're going to be like, okay, well, I can learn from that and see where that didn't quite work. And then I can learn from someone else and be like, okay, that's a good way to use it. And you move forward. So for me, it was kind of a way off, maybe a few years. But it's also good, and another challenge that it's here sooner. It means that you have to grow.
I think there's loads of parallels between the virtual reality industry and its boom and bust, very closely related to the Gartner research cycle and Bitcoin. Because when it first appeared on the scene, a lot of hype, a lot of strong hype. Then it went off a nose cliff. It just nosedived off a cliff, right? And VR's there, like, it wasn't a thing. But as with all of these really interesting technologies that have great promise, there will be small factions that see the core of what the technology is and beaver away at that core and work towards building a killer application, which we're now on the cusp of some amazing killer applications with virtual reality that's really, I think, going to spearhead it as a very serious part of any gamer's setup, right? Because costs are coming down, the quality of development is drastically going up as well. And when we look at, say, Bitcoin as an example, at the beginning, loads of hype, right? Obviously, super beginning, under the radar, but then the hype train started to build up, right? Then everyone started to recreate their own hype trains just because they missed out on the initial hype train. Yeah. But in terms of innovation, nosedive off a cliff, okay? And it's only with the re-emergence of Bitcoin SV, like the guys who kept it real, who kept it pure, who understood what the mission really truly actually is, what Bitcoin's promise to the world actually is, how to unlock that promise. And we're now getting to the point where I can very confidently say, obviously Gravity included, that there's a variety of killer applications coming next year to Bitcoin SV. And the interesting thing for me is both of these are basically coming towards a head at pretty much the same time. VR's really heating up. Bitcoin developments heating up again all of a sudden. You've got AR a little bit further behind. That's very much more commercial applications. But again, we fit that demographic. So this is why we're looking at AR right now. But to me, it just makes me so excited that I know 5 years from now, you and I could be sitting here and be like, remember that Spielberg film, Ready Player One?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. That's where we're going to be at. And people are not going to realize just how quickly this stuff creeps up.
Absolutely.
Right? And how normalized it's all going to feel as it's all creeping up. And that's why I feel with what it is that we're doing here at Bitstocks is important. Even if, say, obviously right now we're not going to be super aggressive on our VR, AR from a end user standpoint, right? But from an R&D standpoint, I think that's going on internally here at Bitstocks, things that you're very much involved with. It's important for us to keep on pushing and testing and having our little like hackathon-esque sessions where you're just putting together some random combinations of technologies and asking the question, what's this going to be like for us and our clients and our customers and everyone that's involved in the Gravity ecosystem and Bitcoin in a few years? Like, what does this mean to Bitcoin in a few years? And I think that's where the real unique aspects of ultimately what we're always trying to do here, which is push that envelope, right? So for you and Ariana and the team that you are now going to build moving forward, because next year is about genuinely ramping things up and sprinting. I know you've been working predominantly right now on the beta phase of Gravity, making sure that all the new iterations of Gravity beta phase is getting released and put out there. But a couple of questions. For you, what are you most excited about next year from Gravity standpoint? Again, this is more interface features. Secondly, same question again from a Bitcoin standpoint. Okay. And lastly, just from a technical standpoint, period, within the next, say, few years that will impact these two.
Gravity point of view, I'd probably say current accounts. I think in terms of what Bitcoin can be, especially in the way the majority of people see it in terms of like value from a monetary standpoint, I think it's gonna be a game changer to actually be able to seamlessly spend. I feel like that's gonna be the only way that it's going to be able to stand side by side with traditional fiat currencies. When you still have to liquidate and then do all of this stuff in order for you to actually be able to use it, that's a huge drawback. Because that's not how we as a society use money. That's not how we buy stuff. So current accounts, definitely. From a Bitstocks point of view,
Bitcoin
point of view. Oh, it's a tough one.
What would you like to see?
I think I'd just like to see more. I'm very open to see how it goes, how it develops in terms of other ways that it can impact my life. Like, I kind of want to be wowed. I know about the monetary aspect of it. I know about the blockchain aspect of it. I know about, securing information and data on it. I want to see maybe games, like real games that I'm actually going to look at and be like, this is amazing, and how those games maybe interact with other systems that we already play, PlayStation, Xbox, like to see something like that merge where I don't even know what the idea could be, but you're using it. Exactly. But I think the whole point of this is to not be doing something that is so revelationary new to a user. Like, it should be something that the user can already know how to do. Similar to how you were saying, you know, Eisen can just pick up a controller. He already knows how to use it. He doesn't necessarily have to learn. So I think that would be good for Bitcoin, to see how it can integrate with other aspects of the life that most people already live. And what was the third one?
Last one is, what technology over the next few years are you most interested in that directly impacts, I guess, your role and your passions?
I mean, I know we've already been speaking about it, but I'd probably say VR, to be fair. You mentioned Ready Player One, and when I watched that film, I was like, this is amazing. But it was just a film to me. It's only when you see the developments of VR and the fact that, you know, it is on PlayStation already. You've got Oculus Rift, you know, in London. You've got Otherworld. Like, people are setting up
Really
warehouses.
Let me tell you how deep it goes, right? Yes, Valve Index. I already got one of those. Other thing that I've inquired about, waiting for them to get back to me, is something called a Tesla suit.
Right.
Okay. No association with the company Tesla. However, you know, in Ready Player One,
Yeah.
and he has an in-game item that is delivered in the physical world.
Yeah.
Just that concept alone, brilliant, right? In-game item delivered in the physical world, and that is the haptic suit. So you feel all the touch. That exists.
Yeah.
It exists.
Yeah.
And it's portable, it's wireless, right? Yeah, you got like little battery packs around you and stuff, but it can stimulate muscles, it can do a whole bunch of different things. So that exists today.
Yeah.
Haptic gloves, being able to see your hands in the game, right? And actually have tension, exists today.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really high priced right now by different manufacturers. You have to have a dev team to get everything working properly. But in order for us to start doing our R&D, this stuff exists.
Yeah.
And on that, unfortunately, we're gonna have to wrap things up because we've got a queue of people waiting outside to get in.
Yeah.
Not realizing that Damien is speaking on his first podcast and has done amazingly well. So hopefully likes, comments, and just give him some love and appreciation and encourage him to come on a little bit more often. But with that being said, do you want to quickly round up and say anything?
Thanks for having me. Anyone watching, check out our beta, register your interests. You know, we need your information in order to make it better. So yeah, definitely look up our services, register, sign up.
And you promise to be here more often.
Yes.
Cool. As always, guys, peace, love, and light. And if this is the last podcast that we get out before Christmas with me featured, which I doubt, have a great Christmas, have an amazing new year, and peace and love to you and your family. All the best. Bye-bye.